In life, it is often those we love the most who hurt us the deepest. Alina Brooks, a woman once dismissed by her own family, was betrayed in a way that cut to the core. The home she had poured her heart and soul into, the very symbol of her independence, was sold by her parents behind her back without her consent. But not everyone is destroyed by betrayal. Instead of breaking, Alina built. Silently and relentlessly, she forged her own empire, brick by brick, failure by failure, triumph by triumph. And one day she returned, not as the fragile daughter they had once belittled, but as the woman who now held the reins to the very company and legacy they tried to deny her. This is a story of resilience, of unshakable determination, and of a woman's unstoppable rise from the shadows of doubt and rejection. Alina Brooks is no longer underestimated. She is a force undeniable, unforgettable, and unbreakable. They used to call me the failed child, the burden, the pale shadow of the perfect brother. They said I didn't have the guts to carry on the family legacy, not enough savvy to survive in the business world, and certainly not enough worth to ever be favored like Marcus, the golden boy they proudly paraded to the world. But how ironic. There I was, standing in a glass tower in the heart of Berlin, about to sign a multi-million-euro deal, when my mother called, not to congratulate me, not to ask how I was, but to deliver a message I would never forget. The house you're living in, it's been sold. We needed the money to save the company. I froze. That house was the result of 5 relentless years of work. No loans, no favors. Every brick, every payment I earned myself. They didn't contribute a single cent. Yet now they sold it as if it were some leftover trinket in their asset collection. No discussion, no permission. Just a cold announcement spoken in a tone so detached it almost sounded like blame. As if this was something I was supposed to accept because I was their daughter. I thought I had misheard, but my mother repeated it, each word crystal clear. The company is on the brink of collapse. Without money, people will lose their jobs. That house, it's only temporary. You should understand it's for the family. Family, I laughed. A laugh caught painfully in my throat. All throughout my childhood, this so-called family had taken everything from me. Recognition, opportunities, even my dreams. I remember when I got a prestigious scholarship in London. They told me not to bother. They had already used that fund to help Marcus open a new branch. I remember when I graduated top of my finance class. My father said that's normal. Girls should do well in school. But when Marcus was merely nominated for an award, they threw a party, as if the entire family had just won Olympic gold. I grew up in shadows. I got used to the coldness, the comparisons, the dismissal. But I don't blame them. Not anymore. Because I've realized some things don't need to be answered with tears or explanations. They're answered with action. And what they don't know is that action began a very long time ago. When I put the phone down that day, I wasn't angry anymore. All that remained was a familiar emptiness. That feeling, I had known it for too long. The feeling of being the extra, the outsider in the very home I grew up in. As a child, I believed that if I tried hard enough, my parents would finally see me. If I was obedient, if I got top marks, maybe they would smile with pride, the way they always did with Marcus. But the truth is, no matter how hard I tried, I was always just Alina, the girl who wasn't Marcus. Marcus was always the chosen one, the one they invested in, the one they praised. And me, I was the backup plan. Or worse, just the silent supporter behind his spotlight. When I got accepted into a prestigious university, they told me I should study closer to home because it would be less of a financial burden. But when Marcus wanted to pursue an MBA in the US, they sold my mother's last car to pay for his tuition. No hesitation, no guilt. I never had a scholarship fund of my own because they had already used that money when I was still in high school to invest in Barton & Co., the family company they always called our shared pride. Shared, but never once did it feel like it included me. I remember one night when I was 24, I proposed a restructuring plan during dinner after thoroughly analyzing the company's decline. My father smiled, not with pride but with condescension. He said flatly, "Your job is to live quietly. Don't think you understand business better than someone who's spent a lifetime in it." I nodded at the time, but I never forgot. In the years that followed, I left home. No drama, no tears. I lived on my own, studied on my own, and picked myself up after every fall. There was no one to cushion me. But perhaps that's why I learned never to bow my head. Every word of dismissal, every time they looked through me, every pitying glance, they all became fuel. I no longer wanted to prove anything to them. I just wanted to become the best version of myself. Not for validation, but for freedom. My parents once told me I would never understand the business world. They didn't know that from the very moment they turned their backs on me, I had already started walking my path. A path built in silence, step by quiet step, but with absolute certainty. And soon they'll realize the one they cast aside is the one now holding the board. After I left my family, an overwhelming emptiness consumed me. But it didn't take long before I realized that emptiness was a doorway, a chance to rebuild everything from the ground up. Looking back now, I understand something vital. The expectations and favoritism they showed Marcus, those were their choices, not mine. But the thing that truly shaped me wasn't the love I lacked. It was the neglect, the dismissal, the quiet wounds I carried. Those were the fires that forged a stronger, more determined Alina. I am not someone who gives up easily. Instead of drowning in anger or regret, I chose to rewrite my life on my own terms. Pride and resilience became my only fuel. I started small, quietly. With a project no one knew about, Veritas Capital, a company built to acquire and revive struggling businesses. While the world still saw me as the failure, I was quietly acquiring distressed companies from modest firms to major players in the industry. Building this empire wasn't easy. Every move had to be calculated, every risk deliberate. I operated through shell corporations, making moves so discreet that my family never suspected a thing. Every time they believed I was floundering, I was in fact moving closer to my endgame. I didn't need fanfare. I didn't crave applause. I knew that only action could redefine my worth. Only results could earn my freedom. And at the heart of that vision was Barton and Comey, the very company my parents still clung to, the company on the verge of collapse. If I could take it, I wouldn't just gain power. I would shatter the illusion they'd spent a lifetime preserving. I would prove once and for all that I was no longer living in Marcus's shadow. Every decision I made in the acquisition of Barton and Co. was carried out with surgical precision. Not a single whisper tied back to me. Each share I acquired was funneled through layered corporate veils. Every debt I bought, every vote I secured, they never saw it coming. Because I knew the moment they sensed it was me, they would turn this into war. But I was patient, meticulous, and over time, I quietly amassed the leverage I needed. Debt by debt, stake by stake, I turned Barton and Comey into a piece of the empire I'd built with my own two hands. And with it came a deep private satisfaction. The same people who once looked down on me would never guess I was now standing at the peak of power. My silent moves had changed the game, and now I could feel it. The time had come. Time to flip the board. Time to show them I was never the failure. Time to reveal who had truly won. It had been a long time since I felt anything close to anticipation when facing my family. But now, everything was different. The quiet years spent building my own empire had led to this moment, a performance I had prepared meticulously for, and one I wouldn't miss for the world. With the shares of Barton and Company firmly in my control and the company's future aligning exactly as I envisioned, I knew the time had come. I was ready to face them directly, powerfully. A special board meeting was called. This time I had no intention of staying silent. I came prepared. Every document, every report, every strategic outline, I had it all ready. But what they didn't know was that I was the force behind every single change they had been scrambling to keep up with. The day of the meeting, I walked into that boardroom radiating a quiet confidence. Every eye in the room turned to me, from the top-level executives to the veteran staff, but none of them recognized me. All they saw was a woman of power, poise, and precision, not the fragile girl they once dismissed. I didn't need to speak much. A few subtle gestures, a few decisive words, and it became clear this game was no longer in the hands of my parents. I wasn't just part of the meeting, I was running it. I was the one with the authority, the agenda, and the future plan. As I began unveiling the strategy and transformation roadmap, I watched their faces change, especially my family's. And then, the moment. I announced that I had acquired the company, that I was now the CEO of Barton & Co., that I held controlling power. Silence fell over the room. My parents' faces turned ghostly pale. Marcus couldn't utter a single word. They simply couldn't comprehend that the daughter they had once dismissed as a disappointment was the one who had orchestrated the takeover of their own company. Then came the decision. Without hesitation or regret, I informed them. They were being relieved of their leadership roles. I offered them a choice: either accept junior positions under my leadership or walk away from the company entirely. No apologies, no explanations. The price of years of disregard, of belittling me, was finally due. In that moment, I didn't just reclaim fairness, I claimed myself. I had risen from rejection, from hurt, from years of silent oppression, to become a powerful, self-made woman. Just like I had always known, if you don't stand up for yourself, no one else will. The meeting ended in a quiet explosion of emotions, too complex to name. As I met the eyes of my parents and my brother, I saw the truth finally land. They had spent years trying to control my life, but in the end, I was the one holding the board. Alina Brooks's story is a powerful testament to resilience and the determination to never give up in the face of adversity. She is not only a daughter betrayed by her family, but also a woman who rose from betrayal to prove her worth. This story reflects not only the injustices in family relationships, but also the journey of self-assertion and the ability to take control of one's destiny even when facing countless challenges. The story opens a deep perspective on the unfair comparisons within family members. Despite Alina's talent and efforts, she was always seen as the failed daughter because her parents favored her brother Marcus. This is a problem many of us can relate to, where recognition and love from family are often unfairly directed towards someone else. However, instead of succumbing to despair, Alina chose to stay silent and relentlessly build her financial empire. This teaches us an important lesson. Sometimes it's not necessary to vocalize dissatisfaction, but rather silent strength and decisive actions are the best way to prove our value. Alina's retaliation is not just a dramatic reversal, but a symbol of a powerful rise from adversity. When she became the one in control of the company, not only was her family surprised, but readers could also feel the strength of this transformation. Alina firing her parents and brother was not about revenge, but about asserting her power and teaching them a lesson about respect. I find Alina's story truly inspiring. It speaks not just about success in business, but about how we can overcome disdain and become the best versions of ourselves. Her journey makes me reflect on self-worth and the inner strength that each of us can find no matter how harsh the circumstances.